Hello everybody, peace be with you. It's me, the Anna-Catholic, and today is not really much of an anime topic. However, it is probably going to be one of the most controversial videos I think I will ever make on this channel. And that is on a unique perspective I actually have about Galileo and the modern scientific revolution as it pertains to Galileo, and then also some of the consequences that we have seen from the entire shift that it has been since this point, I would say, in terms of distrusting the church and also distrusting the Bible. So sit back and relax. There's probably going to be plenty of people that are going to be like being like, oh, you're so stupid for like even having a take on this or something like that. But once we actually get through my whole entire take, you'll probably see exactly what my perspective is and how I'm not necessarily contradicting Galileo's findings in terms of science. I'm more contradicting his the conclusion that the world has come to and is taught about Galileo and this specific finding. So, as you know, before Galileo, everybody was like, hey, the Earth is the middle of the universe, and it's small, and it's stuck here, and everything else goes around us, and we don't know much about the stars and whatnot. Because they really didn't know much about the stars at that point, basically. There was not very great, like, scientific type study to that. Although, I think in China there actually was plenty of stuff in terms of star systems and stuff. I think China also realized that, like, the Earth was in motion and that kind of stuff as well at some point. I forget exactly what, because there's plenty of other things that are linked up in terms of records with the Bible itself as well. But they were using the Ptolemaic record, which was accepted by the Catholic Church at this point in time and basically taught by the Catholic Church at that point. And so, like, basically with Galileo, he lived from the late 14th century, or that's 16th century actually, to the mid 17th century. So basically a kind of important time in terms of the cultural and scientific revolution, as you could say. The Renaissance kind of, I think, is around that era as well. So yeah, his theory is Copernican Heliocentrism, which basically means that the sun is the center of everything, basically. And the consequences of this theory was that the church at the time opened a heretical inquiry into his findings because it did contradict church teachings at the time. So as for my actual perspective on heliocentrism, I think it does not contradict the Bible in terms of, like, it's not really that big of a deal if, like, the Earth revolves around the sun, or, like, the sun revolves in the Milky Way galaxy and that kind of stuff, and that there's, like, the universe and that kind of stuff. That doesn't contradict the Bible whatsoever, basically. But it doesn't contradict the importance of Earth in terms of God's reasons and purpose for it in the universe, because Earth, after all, is where humanity is from. And if we're thinking about things on a spiritual level, the Earth is the very center of the universe, because it's the most important thing in the universe, basically, because that's where God's most important creation, humanity, is actually flourishing, basically. And extrapolate this and seeing that the church was not completely wrong in terms of, like, putting a very, very spiritual significance on the Earth being the center, but they were wrong that the Earth doesn't move. They were wrong that Earth can move and it still be basically the center of the universe. So they were like, your science is all against religion, basically, and that kind of stuff. And so yes, that's an L on the church's part, basically. That's an L on the Catholic Church's part. However, modern science has actually warped this truth into using it as an enemy for the not an enemy, but using it as a tool for the enemy, pretty much, because now we have distrust in the church because of Galileo, not necessarily because of him entirely, but because of how the church is at that point and what people are taught about it to begin with. And we also have warped science now that is justified by Galileo's discovery. And so I don't think that's really anything that you can... I think it's really bad that this has happened in modern science, and I think there's some other things as well, like Darwin, for example, is another thing you could argue as well, that even his own findings are pretty much more like he's kind of tossing things to the wayward in a few cases, I would say. And I guess, like, coming to conclusions that aren't necessarily, like, quite founded, I would say. So why was Galileo's theory used against the biblical worldview in modern science? I think it really comes down to how now basically the devil basically just has a grip on society as a whole, pretty much, and he's pulled a curtain over everybody's eyes so that they will distrust in Jesus as much. And I don't think that's a really good thing, and I think it's negatively impacting everybody, and it's causing more and more people to slip away from the church or not actually find the depths of their faith as it really should be, in my opinion, and the depths of logic as well. People are getting less logical about things the more they apparently know as facts, because that's what modern science is about, finding facts. However, they don't actually find truth in a lot of cases. And so yeah, there's different opinions on like what people think about science in the Bible, and I'm not here to like tell you exactly what to think. I'm just here to get you thinking about certain things, basically. So Wendy Writer, Ronnie Reader, Abby Author, Barry Books. You can be any four of these pretty much, and they're all just different combinations of I think science is correct, and I think the Bible is correct. Or, I think the Bible is wrong, and science is correct. All sorts of things. We have different perspectives, basically. However, my personal bias, I guess you would say, or like my personal philosophy, is that science is correct when it comes down to what worldview you're looking at it through. So I would probably be a Wendy Writer over here, pretty much, but with a little nuance stipulation to science is correct and also the Bible is correct. Because both have to actually coincide for you to actually realize what the truth is, and it's not something that you can just, I guess, be... like, you can know more about the truth by actually looking for yourself and logically thinking through things, pretty much. But there are some people that just think the Bible is completely wrong and that science is completely true, even though my personal opinion is that science has flaws, and I personally don't think the Bible is flawed in terms of its writing, and its writing is specifically for a specific reason, with every single word in there, basically. But I think in some people's interpretations of the Bible are incorrect, and that can happen quite a bit as well. So my personal opinion is that the Earth is actually young, and I've been opened, I guess, to that by the, I guess, the thinker Ken Ham, basically. He does a lot of the philosophy, I guess you could say, and scientific type stuff regarding like the young Earth, basically, and like putting things into perspective in terms of like interpreting science with either a biblical worldview or a secular worldview, which if you can get basically two different conclusions based on your worldview. And so I choose to ally with God, not man, basically. But yes, modern sciences subverts the Bible in ways that over time has led to social deterioration of trust in the Bible and in Jesus himself, which is very, very detrimental to the church overall, I would say. And not just the Catholic Church, but just everybody who is an actual true believer of Jesus Christ. It's a deterioration that's happening, basically, and not many people realize it. There's also a very important thing to salvation for this, because evolution is incompatible with salvation, because it basically assumes that death was already present in the world and is not actually a consequence of Adam and Eve's sin, basically, which completely subverts the whole reason why Christ would even suffer and die for us as well. So these are very important things and very important questions that I would very much encourage all of you to do some research about, and I guess try to see from the other perspective, because primarily it's the scientific perspective, and as a Christian speaking out against the scientific perspective in a certain perspective, I guess my perspective is considered prospectively uninspectable. Yeah, that's some mouthful of words right there. Catholic reforms. Really what I would like to see in the church is encouraging research into truth and being skeptical and critique scientific findings that are aiding in the enemy's goals. So like there's definitely things that would go to this, like evolution, for example, is something that the church should be very, very skeptical about, because that would assume that there's more people on the earth than there was in the past, and that could also give you the perspective that maybe Adam and Eve never existed, or something like that. Or maybe the Bible's false, that kind of stuff. So at a certain point, it's like, you have to be skeptical of scientific findings that are contrary, basically. Even though the technical Catholic teaching is that they don't view any science as able to contradict the Bible, but at least in terms of my own logical interpretation of everything, it's like it very much can lead to contradicting the Bible if you actually think about things a bit too much. And also, we should teach the biblical perspective of a young earth alongside the secular worldview. So we should compare and contrast all of these things, which I think would really help, because too many times now, it's like the Catholic Church has just accepted that the earth is like millions of years old without realizing what accepting that or being too open to it is actually being detrimental to the faith in general for people who are like actually a lot like smarter, I guess you could say, or like who have actually done research into this, or are actually trying to, I guess, like not really to like defeat the enemy, pretty much, because that's only something that Jesus basically will do when it's encountered, basically. But my goal is basically to grab as many people's attention to this subject so that they are actually able to see more so of the truth and be strengthened in their faith, basically. So that's my ideas. So how would you rate the video? That is what I would like to know. Also, discuss your perspective in the comments below, because I definitely know there will be lots of perspective in the comments below. Especially if we start talking about stuff like the flat earth and that kind of stuff, which I would also love to discuss at some point as well. And that's more from a philosophical standpoint, not a scientific standpoint. However, that's one of the main things that would get flagged, and people would start to, I guess, try to tear me down almost, or like make me out to be a fool, something like that, I guess you could say. But yes, as the saying goes, sometimes the wise man keeps his mouth shut. However, when you have the truth on your side, keeping your mouth shut is not a good thing to do. Same thing with the church, same thing with faith. So, the peace of the Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. I will pray that St. Michael protects you in your battles if you are one of the warriors for Christ. And yes, peace be with you all. Amen.